Yeah, well, no, yeah, I don't know, yeah.
Hello, this is Ryan Riccitelli with asnews.net, and this is podcast number 56. And today we have a longtime friend of mine, Paul Macaj. People just call him Motz, and he's been snowkiting longer than most people. And he used to be a pro snowboarder, and now he's a pro snowkiter, sailboat, sail, kite, windsurf repairman, and owner of kitesnowboarder.com. And he makes his home in Littleton, Colorado. And while he loves kiteboarding on water, snowkiting is his passion, and he joins us today to talk about the evolution of snowkiting and his new DVD, 2010. Did I do a good job?
Yeah, right on. That was to the T. Perfect.
Yeah, I kind of messed up the part, though, where it says that you're a sailboat, sail, kite, and windsurf repairman.
Whatever. It's everything, because that's what I am. I'm just kind of, like, I float around from job to job, so it's perfect.
Well, you know, I met you, shoots, in, like, 2001, doing a snowkite story when, I remember it was just, back then it was like there wasn't really much snowkiting going on. But why don't you tell us a little bit about that, like how we met? And
Sure, yeah. We met. I think we met because of Matt Nuzzo from Real Kiteboarding, and he was up at Dillon, just kind of kiting around and trying to just see what it was all about, and trying to figure out if there could be some lessons that goes on for the sport. And you were looking for a story and whatnot, and so he basically told you that, hey, there's a couple guys that are from Denver, and I was one of them, and James Brown and a few others, and you contacted me from that point. So you actually called me. You didn't even know who I was or anything, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, this magazine's calling me. I don't even know who you guys are or anything, and I found out later that you figured it out from I figured it out basically from Matt Nuzzo. So. It's pretty cool. Props to him for kind of getting the word out that there's some kiters out here already doing it, and that's pretty awesome. So.
Well, and just to clarify, because if I don't, I'm sure I'll hear about it. But that was my old employer, and that is not the magazine I'm with now. I am currently with The Kiteboarder magazine, and so yeah, like that was a bit of my history too. I used to be an editor for a previous magazine that I made 18 magazines with, and now I'm with my own magazine, The Kiteboarder, and we've done 13 magazines, and basically I've known you through all of that, and that's basically the point I wanted to make. Yeah, you were one of my very first go-to guys for snowkiting, you and James Brown. And James Brown he was the first art director of our magazine, and he's our snowkite editor of The Kiteboarder, and we just kind of have this long friendship, and actually I never really felt like I was working with you because you've always been such a cool dude. But why don't you talk a little bit about how you got into snowkiting and from professional snowboarding?
Sure. Well, actually, I can. I don't know how far back you want me to go, but oh man, let's see. I windsurfed since I was like 11. For a really long time. So that kind of got me going as far as the wind goes, and then as far as the snowboarding goes, I started around 14, so like in 1986. Whoa, that's way back then. But yeah, that's when I started snowboarding. So snowboarding back then, I started competing in 88, which was I think I was a freshman in high school, which that was a fun time. All the high school years. And I started snowboarding with a guy named Motz, and me and him, we just snowboarded like crazy. He bought this Volkswagen bus, and we were like up at the resort, and he had a little gas propane like heater basically in his Volkswagen bus, and we'd stay up in the parking lots up at like Copper Mountain Resort and a few other resorts where now you can't even do that. There's signs posted everywhere, no camping and whatnot. So we were up there, and it was really awesome to just like be there for like 2 weeks and just be like, okay, let's just snowboard for 2 weeks, and that's how that all started as far as snowboarding goes, and really like that's a huge thing. Like I just snowboarded forever and ever and ever, and then basically lived all over the U.S. and competed all over the U.S. Doing half pipe competitions and getting exposure doing that way, riding for Nitro and Dakine and a few other companies. And then I just kind of decided that I was getting really burned out, and I just couldn't take it, and it wasn't fun anymore to me. It was more of a job, so I just left. Basically, just said, "See ya, I'm gonna go get my degree," and went to CSU, got a degree, and then that's when kiting came about. And Motz and I called Motz. I'm like, "Hey man, there's these kites, and people are cruising around out of Maui, and it's the coolest thing ever. On these little kites, Whippica kites from France." And I was like, let's get two and just see what happens. Let's try it on water. I mean, originally our thought was to just use it on water, and so that was 97, 98, and we were ready to use this stuff on the water, and we sucked. It was so bad, and we were like, okay, well, all right, we tried it. I mean, I think we tried it for a couple months, and I was like, man, I don't understand this. And I came from a windsurfing background too, and I still I just wasn't having it. It wasn't good. It wasn't fun. I couldn't go upwind, just fly downwind on a wakeboard, and I'm always just eating crap everywhere. So I was just like, okay, I'm done. I actually got my kite, rolled up and just left it in the garage. I was like, I'm done. Forget it, but we always had it in the back of our mind that, hey, snow could be a huge thing. So that year, which was 98, winter of 98, we actually was, I think I might have been the first one. I'm not sure. It was pretty close between Motz and I, but I remember when I first went out, and it was the winter of 98, and a storm came through Denver, and it was a 2-foot dump. And I was like, all right, cool, let me go try this. I'm going to go try it. I'm going to take the kite out of the garage. I think I even left, the struts inflated. I was just like, this is, whatever. I was so, annoyed. Half inflated because it was left in the garage forever. But I think, threw it in the van, went down to, the soccer field that was lit up, and, threw the kite out. It was a 2-line Whippica 8.5 meter kite, and just had a heyday. It was 7 o'clock at night, and I was just kiting for 2 hours straight, going upwind, flying around, going, what is going on? This is just unreal. There's no friction. There's no, I can get going in 5 knots. It was just ridiculous. So after that whole session, I remember packing it up, and I immediately called Motz. I'm like, dude, this is freaking crazy. You got to try this. It's just we can get going in nothing. And there's no swimming. There's going upwind is just nothing. So you got to try this. So it was cool to be there at that point, and knowing that no one around us did it. I'm sure there might have been other people around the U.S. that I didn't hear about, but where we were in that location, I didn't know, and it was the coolest thing ever. So that's kind of how we all started. And then after that, Motz and I, we just basically went from place to place, looking for soccer fields and anywhere from up high up in the mountain passes to everything. And we'd have sessions where it was crap to really really good to every possible different session that you could possibly get, and it'd be man, it was just really crazy, because you'd have that really good session, and then you'd have 3 or 4 bad sessions, and man, you want that good one again. So that was kind of what we were trying to achieve at that point. So it was really really cool to be there and to be with Motz and checking that out. It was fun.
Well, and I remember the photos that you would send me, and there was all these controversy whether they were photoshopped, you guys were superimposing yourself against these big old mountains in the background. Do you remember that stuff?
Probably. I don't know. I'm not sure. We did have some shots of us actually even doing rails back then. We were trying rails and stuff, and it was funny. We tried everything, and we definitely didn't succeed at most of it, but we didn't care. We just had a big smile on our face.
No, it was a funny time because everybody was wondering whether snow kiting would ever evolve into anything, but people have really they projected that it would surpass water kiting, and what do you think? I mean, obviously it hasn't grown as fast as we've all anticipated, but I mean, I don't think we've really hit our true growth spike yet. I mean, what's your perception of that?
Yeah, no way. Yeah, it's it's tough. It's if you'd asked me that same question when I started, and when I was really getting into the snow in the year 2000, 2001, I'd be I remember saying that, being man, it's going to be huge. It's so much bigger than water, and now it's still I mean, it's growing. Believe me, I know it's growing. It's definitely growing. It's crazy, but it just hasn't grown like I thought it would, and I don't know. And I always stem that back to that it's a wind sport, and it's not You know, it's not a snowboard. You can't just like strap in and like buy a season pass and go down a hill and hit every kicker on the mountain. It's just not that easy. Like, you have to really like understand weather, and like you have to get instructions, and it's, you know, there's some money involved. So yeah, it's not going to be like favorable to a lot of kids out there and a lot of people that are trying to get into it when there's, you know, there's so much to it. So that's like a really like hard part of the sport, is like trying to get everybody into it, you know, and you know, everyone I've actually taught, like, it's really cool. Like, everyone I've actually put a kite in their hands has been like, okay, I'm sold, you know. But then you get like a lot of guys that are like, you know, they like a lot of snowboarder friends of mine that they won't even come and try it. Like, but I know if they did, they'd be like, okay, this is cool, but they won't, you know. So it's just such an image thing that like it's pretty tough in the snowboard world as far as kiting goes. So there's a lot to learn as far as where the sport's going, as far as kiting on snow and whatnot, and we have a lot of growth for sure. Like, you know, that could be coming if it was, you know, if it was directed the right way, I think.
Well, why don't you think more manufacturers are getting focused on this side of the sport? I mean, you have some that are really, you know, have made it real important and created a snow kiting line within their line. Why don't you think some of the other manufacturers haven't?
No, and I think I know why. I'm pretty sure it's that I never see any of these, you know, corporate people or manufacturers at any of the contests or events that I've gone to, and I don't think they've realized like what's going on. But it's like it's right at their doorstep, and like if they knew what was happening, like it's gonna be like crazy. Like the potential for the sport is unbelievable. So they don't know and they don't see it. That's why like this whole video thing came into play for me. But anyways, I'm just saying that like there's a lot of these companies that just don't see it, and you know, like Slingshot, like, you know, those guys, when they see it and when they're there and they're trying it, they're just like, oh my gosh. I mean, you know, that's why like some of these companies have actually been like, okay, they're being really cooperative with the sport and are really like catering gear towards the sport. So yeah, it's weird because, you know, like I think about like these companies and I'm like, I always see pictures of like Maui and like, you know, like these amazing like beaches and like, you know, these guys are kiting on water and it's perfect, but they're never out in the snow with us and they never see like the potential of what's going on. I mean, some of the stuff you'll see 100 kites in the air on snow, but they don't see it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that just has to do with how, you know, the sport is. So there's a big disconnect in terms of just where the distribution centers are and then actually people out in the field. I mean, it's part of the growing pains of our sport, you know. And I see the same thing. It's like sometimes, you know, kiting is different things in different areas of the U.S., and if you don't go and travel around and really put your fingers into the sand and let the sand run through your fingers, you don't know what's really out there. And, I mean, I know you've traveled around quite a bit because I've seen you in a lot of different places and not just snow kiting places. And this last year, if you really look at the buzz, I mean, look at what's going on in Skyline, Utah. I mean, there's a perfect example. I mean, there's a full-blown resort that's being built there right now, and I mean, that would have been unheard of a couple years ago. Yeah,
it's crazy, and I love to see that. Like, you know, I don't know. I felt like I kind of gave up a few years ago. I was just like, I'm just kind of over it. Like, whatever. You know what? I'm just going to go out, wake up in the morning, go get a session in, and then go work or whatever. And that's kind of, you know, how I've been for a while. I'm just like, I just feel like, just to try to get the sport in the public's eye is so tough, you know. And there's just so many different ways it could go, and there's just so many places, and it's really rough. But now, you know, to see it kind of coming together, and man, you know, like Skyline and some of these places are unbelievable. And for someone to fly out, you know, for a 5-day trip or even just a weekend trip, you know, they'll probably get it good, and they can finally be like, okay, you know, they're not going to be one of those people that like tried it and said, oh, you know, I tried it, it didn't work. You know, they can go to a place like Skyline and have like someone there, or, you know, or at least go to a location where they know there's wind and the snow is unbelievably deep, and like know that it's going to be good. So the reliability factor now in this sport is getting stronger, you know, as far as getting that good session, and that's a big thing for the sport.
someone's chiming in from the lounge saying we heard ESPN contacted the Montana Snowkite Rodeo this year, so maybe, who knows, this could be the year for snowkiting, because I think it has the wow factor of it. Like when you see like guys like Chasta and even yourself and James and all that crew doing what you guys do and catching the air and that you catch on it's definitely a wow factor for the crowd. I mean, for the spectators that are out there, I think it would definitely be a good sport for television.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, it's kind of like, I guess it's like any other event that's for, when guys are kiting out, on any other event that's for kiteboarding, it's like, the wind's got to cooperate and all that. So it's kind of, it's definitely there for snow kiting as well. Like the wind has to cooperate and the location does too. So, like I kited yesterday up at Loveland Pass, which is at 12,000 feet, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get I'm gonna get it good. And I was by myself, which was crazy, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna get a session in. And I was up there, and the snow was like glazed over wind pack, like almost icy and just gnarly. Like I was on a 16-meter octane, just like holding on, going, crap, like this is not safe. So like there's so many like scenarios where where snow kiting there's just so much to learn, and I think we're just still in the beginning of it. I know we've been doing it for, I think, kiting on snow for like, oh my gosh, for like 9 years. So and I'm still saying that, like, we still have so much to learn. So, but to get a place like Skyline and to get some of these locations and say, okay, these are these spots. This is where you want to send people. This is where an event could happen, and we will get wind within a 7-day period. It'd be really cool to show that to people. I think people would freak out when they see it, as far as the public goes.
Well, here's a question for you. Eric from snowkiting.com recently interviewed you and posed an interesting question that I think is worth asking again for our listeners. It says, you were part of snowboarding as it developed from a fringe sport into what it is today. Do you compare snowboarding to snowkiting, and if so, are there any similar or different trends?
Yeah, no, I guess I'm like a lot of wakeboarders that kite, in the sense that I take my snowboarding to kiting. So like when I do tricks and whatnot, it's like completely a snowboard trick. So like when I say like a backside 720 mute grab, I'm doing that with a kite, but it's the same sort of technique, same like trick. So yeah, I mean it's like, I definitely take, it's almost 100%. Probably 90% of it, it's like all snowboarding that I take to kiting. The kite's there to pull you, and I'm there to just, get the speed and the amplitude that I need to do what I want to do.
Well, obviously you've seen a lot of gear changes in the sport, and you've seen, sea kites, foil kites. You've watched all the different evolutions, and what do you prefer to ride, a sea kite or a foil kite on the snow, and why?
Ooh, that's tough. It's like, every person's got their own choice, and you can really see that now in kiting. So, for me, it's always been a sea kite, and I just like a lot of grunt. I like a lot of power, like all the time. In fact, I still ride fixed a lot of times. If the wind's smooth, I like lock the balls on both sides of the bar, and I'm fixed. I have no deep power, and for me, and that's on snow, and so. I will ride as powered as I can be at all times, and I just really like that feeling, because I know where I can put that kite. If I need deep power, I don't need to rely on the bar. I can actually just hold down on the tail of my snowboard, and that kite zips upwind, and I'm losing power. So I kind of rely mostly on, I guess, my board, to dump wind if I need to. So for me, it's always been a sea kite thing. Now, I don't know, I'm definitely an old school rat compared to a lot of guys, so, I think the bow kites and all that it's amazing. I have so many friends that are back into kiting again. They actually kind of stopped, and now they're back in, and I love that. It's nice to see that these, the bow kites are around and people are really comfortable, maybe a little too comfortable at some points, so.
Yeah, that's another element, too. Have you even fooled around with a bow on the snow?
I haven't yet. I flew some stuff on land just to try it, and I don't know. I mean, it always comes, for me, like, I don't feel much power, and I'm probably not a good person to talk to about it, because I just, like, have always liked 100% power at all times, no matter what. So, the bow kite, it's nice, like, especially on the snow. If you're not seeing, you can't see gusts of wind sometimes unless it's coming off the snow a little. And, on water, sometimes you can see a little bit more, of a discoloration in the water when a gust is coming. So, on the snow, it's kind of important for a lot of people that they ride these bow kites, so they're more comfortable when that gust does hit, and they can just, pull out in the bar and let out some power. So, I haven't had that much use in them, and I'm probably not a good person to talk to about it, actually.
That's all right. You're probably the best person to talk about it, because you'll give us you'll give us real feedback rather than marketing hype. That's why I like asking questions to you, like guys like you.
No, and that's the truth. I haven't signed a contract with a kite company since 2003, I believe. So yeah, I'll lay down the words for sure, like my opinion, and whatever that counts, But yeah, I think the bow kites are, man, it's tough. I don't know. I think a lot of people probably feel the same as I do. I think that it's, like, really awesome that people are getting into it, and then at the same time I'm like, man, I hope they, like I'm scared, like, this winter, like, I hope a lot of these people that are on bow kites, aren't going to be out there like, okay, I can hold down anything, like, no problem, and just go out there, like, strap in their skis or snowboard and be like, okay, I'm gonna hold this down no matter what happens. And with this bow kite, I can ride anything, and then, I just don't want that kind of attitude. So that's the only thing that I don't like about them, and that's it, that's all that is, for bow kites. But at the same time, it helps the sport. I think there's a lot of people that are getting back into, or not back into, but are into kiting and are really stoked. Even if it's gusty, they'll go out, and that's a good thing, So and I still don't go out. For personally, I still don't go out when it's gusty. So.
Well, here's a question that's coming in. It says, how do you think snowboarders and skiers view our sport, and what will it take to encourage more of them to cross over to snow kiting?
Snowboarders and skiers?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I've tried. I mean, yeah, it's rough. It's like, I think a lot of it, I can't speak as far as skiers go, because I skied for 5 years when I was like a little kid, but I snowboarded from when I was super young till now, and I'm thinking on behalf of snowboarders, but it's so tough to talk to snowboarders and be like, oh, just come and try it, and they're like, man, you should hear some of the stuff that comes back. It's too much equipment, and that's one quote. What else do they always say? They say, well, is that like hang gliding, paragliding? It's and that's a huge one. It's ridiculous. These are all ridiculous. I can tell you that right now. What else do I hear? I hear, how much is that? I'm sure everyone's heard that one. And snowboard for a lot of people, I remember talking to some guy, and these guys are all, mind you, these guys are all pros. These guys are getting paid salary, and some of them are filmers that I talk to. So these are the guys that I've used to snowboard with, and I still do every now and then, but not as much. And these people are still, I talk to these people, and they're like, what's that guy doing? He just aired over that whole hill. He just blew it. That was perfect 2D powder in Utah. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, are you kidding? That's okay, it's fine. You know what? I'm like, listen, yeah, he blew it. Okay, but he's going back up there in about 2 seconds while you're hiking in your backpack and your snowshoes and all that weight, and it's gonna take you forever to get up there. And he's gonna be up there in about 2 minutes, and he's gonna come back down and ride all that powder. So it's a lot of it to get people to understand what we're doing, I think is really for people to see it. And it's going to be an image thing. If people see it, snowboarders see it, and and they see it in a cool fashion, so it looks good. It's got to look good. One grab on a snowboard and it's off a little, snowboarders will critique it to the end. And you can see that when you watch Shaun White and these guys going down a half pipe or down a park run. They will critique that. They will grab perfect tail. They will grab perfect indie. They will grab. If it's not a perfect grab, forget it. this sport's done. Like, it has to be, you know, I was telling, who was it? I can't remember who I was telling, but I was telling him how, you know, so if someone's doing a grab 40 feet up in the air, and it's a tindy, which is right behind your back foot on your toe side edge, it's like, it doesn't matter if it's 40 feet up, even 80 feet up, whatever height it is. They see that, and they see it. It's like, oh, man, it's what? A tindy? No one does that. If they grab Indy, and they'll look at it, and if it's 10 feet up, they'll be like, well, okay, that, you know what, that looks pretty sick. Like, it looks smooth. Looks good, you know? So it's all about, like, in the snowboard skate world, it's about making it look smooth, perfect, and, like, no flaws. Like, no dangle, like, no nothing, just one big, solid spin with a grab.
Well, and, you know, you've always been hard on me. Actually, you haven't really been hard on me because I haven't really screwed up all that much because I usually run this stuff by either you or James or somebody who knows what's up to make sure that I'm not putting my foot in my mouth. So, and actually, I remember one time I wrote this move out, and you called me up and complimented me. You say, because every magazine gets it wrong, but you got it right, and that was a good day for me. I was like, cool, I guess I'm doing my job and being legit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you know, you see so many mags. I see so many mags just, like, come across, you know, through my study, and I'm just like, oh, man. You know, like, on the cover, like, for all things, I'm like, no, no, this isn't happening. You know, I just close it and, like, put it away. I'm like, come on, like, it's got to be, like, right on, you know, so.
Well, you know, and this leads into your saying about getting exposure for the sport. You know, you made Next Chapter last year, and this year you're about ready to release a new DVD, 2010, or actually this week you're releasing it. How long did it take you to film it, and tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's actually the guys called me today. It's finished, and I'm picking everything up tomorrow. So it's shipping tomorrow morning, which is pretty cool timing for everybody. But yeah, I'm stoked on it, and it's like it's totally different than what I've done in the past. Like, I mean, the Next Chapter was I basically like bought a camera like from a famous rock climber in Boulder, and I'm like, okay, I want to film this sport, and I want to show people what we're doing. Because we're out in the backcountry, sometimes so far, especially like at Skyline, and I want to like show people like, hey, you know, what we're doing. And you know, people at Skyline, you can't just pull over and like see what we're doing. It's too far away. So I really want to get, you know, I wanted to get closer to the scene and show people. So I basically picked up a camera. I mean, we're talking last year, and started filming and just made a film and you know, it's what it is. It's like my first movie, and it'll always be like, I think it'll always be just kind of like the first movie that comes out of the U.S. And it was just kind of showcased a few of us here in the U.S. And now with 2010, man, it's like, man, it's so different. Like, I've learned so much as far as filming goes, and like editing, and like, you know, the whole thing. It's just ridiculous. And I mean, my eyes are bloodshot. Like, I'm so done.
I can imagine, man. Video editing is a tedious process.
Totally, yeah. But no, I'm stoked. Like, I just love like how I did it. Like, I kind of like had to think about. It was really tough for me this year. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this video totally different. It's not gonna be like outlined. Like, I outlined like the Next Chapter. I'm like, okay, everyone's got a section, blah blah blah. No, it's not gonna happen this way. Like, I'm gonna go in there, and I'm just gonna like do a mishmash of everything. Like, I'm just gonna put it all together and just have it flow. Like, I didn't like think about any kind of outline or anything, and I'm really stoked on that. And I was thinking back, like, I actually watched like some Vulcan movies back in the day. In fact, anyone out there that snowboards or is filming or whatever, you guys should go by The Garden, or The Garden by Vulcan. It is insane, and it's just like, and it's still to this day it holds up. It's so old. And it's so cool to see it. Like, it's like shot in like Super 8, and just has this feel to it that like you can watch it over and over and over again. And that's what I wanted. I was like, you know what? I want people to watch this and then not just put it away back on the shelf. I want people to watch this and be like, okay, let's watch that again. You know, like, it's so different every shot. Like, so, and the scenes are all changing. You know, they're changing so much. So I kind of came into it with a more of an artistic point of view. And hopefully I succeeded. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you know, here's a question from Motz, who I understand you started kiting with. And what's the similarity in the nicknames, you know, Motz and Motz?
Yeah. I mean, Motz, Mike Munzenmeyer, you know, his last name is Munzenmeyer, which is spelled Munzenmayer. So try that one. So that's Motz. That's you know, we kind of came from the same boat. Like, his name is so long, and then my name is Macaj, which, you know, people try to spell that out. It's like M-A-T, you know, I don't know, S-A-I. I hear all kinds of weird stuff. It's like M-A-C-A-J. Like, it's so hard for, like, people to, like, figure out. So we're like, you know what, Motz, and we're done.
Yeah. Well, you know, he wanted to say congrats on 2010, and he can't wait to see it and hear it in Colorado. And he says, what are filming plans and locations for this season? And did you see any new breakthroughs last season that might change the way how you ride this year?
Yeah, you know, I think, as far as filming goes, you know, I don't know. Like, I'm really stoked on it, but it's really hard. Like, you know, you got to sell DVDs, and you got to make sure that, like, the sport's still growing. So, you know, hopefully that this DVD sells a lot more, and I can keep in touch with doing this and still do it. But one of my plans was to film it's going to be more of a documentary deal where we travel, and I kind of have a roadmap basically planned in my head, basically through Colorado, Montana, Utah, Idaho, all that, like this big triangle, and I just kind of want to document all of us, and it's going to not necessarily mean the best riders. It's going to be all, like, location-based, and, like, all just super sick spots, and just kind of expose, like, you know, how, you know, you can kite anywhere. So that's kind of an idea of mine in my head. As far as filming goes, as far as like the tricks go and whatnot, from the year before, it's always changing every year. It's always getting as super technical as you can, whether it's on a hip, you know, or a quarter pipe, or, you know, just trying to do a hand plant. I mean, little things like just to perfect it and make it as smooth as possible. That's been like the big thing, and then. You know, and then going really big. So, you know, like Shasta and some of those guys, like, you know, there's guys that are flying. So, like, we are seeing it's weird, because, like snow kiting still, to me, is pretty small, but it's expanding into, like, crazy directions. So we're seeing a park-style attitude, and then we're seeing, like, flying stuff. So Shasta and these guys are just flying off of huge hills, and then there's guys like me that will jib all day long in a park and just get as technical as they can, where I think that kind of is where I think it needs to start personally, and then taking those technical tricks into the bigger area like backcountry, because that's how snowboarding is now. So you perfect, even if it's a backside 360, you'd be surprised how much you can perfect a backside 360 without grabbing. I'm talking no grab. I mean, you can spend a year or 2 years on it kiting and make it perfect on any height, and it doesn't matter how high you go or whatever. You just start to feel how high you are, or how low you are to spin it, and to take that to a new level, and then take that off of cornices into the backcountry and just grow with it. So that's, for me, that's the next thing.
Well, and let's move back to 2010 a little bit, because you know, who are some of the featured riders in 2010, and like what can you expect? What kind of riding is in 2010?
Sure. We got, of course, Shasta, Guillaume Chastignol, Dave Tyberski, James Brown, myself, Remy, and a bunch of other riders. So it's just like it's you know, it's diverse for sure, diversified compared to the next chapter. It's definitely some newer people and the same people. It's like everybody, and it's growing. Like, there's more and more people riding, so it's hard to, like, find the right people and get the right people on target as far as filming goes.
I've heard some cool stuff about the bonus section too.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff, man. There's like, I was like, you know what? I just know, like, for myself, I love bonus sections. I don't know what it is. Like, I love watching the main feature, but for me to watch, like, the bonus stuff, I love it. Like, there's a point of view. So I did like a split screen segment with Shasta, and then there's Shasta, like, me filming him, and there's Shasta with his helmet cam, and I, like, synced it up perfectly so you can kind of see, you know, what he's doing, and then also from my point of view, like, where he is at, like, as far as over trees, around trees, what he's doing with his kite. You know, there's a little bit of that. Then there's a Kicker 101 and I basically talk about how to build a jump specifically for kiting, and how they're different than the jumps that like at the park. They're not just these flat straight jumps. There's some cant to it, and there's a lot to it, and you can hit them from both sides. And I learned a lot just from this winter, like building jumps in sanitarium up by Breckenridge to like build the right jumps for kiting. So that was a huge thing. And then locations is, I think that's going to be a real big hit for everybody. I basically picked 3 spots that I thought were the most reliable spots that you could pick as far as kiting, more towards, it's Montana, Utah, and Colorado. I mean, there's tons of spots, but I just picked these 3 spots because we filmed in those 3 spots. So I basically talked about those 3 spots, including the local shops in the area and, like, directions, how to get there from the airport. I got maps on there and everything, and then, what kind of conditions that, you could get into in those areas. And then I have there's a slideshow with Charles Braden. He's an awesome guy out of Montana. He's this young guy that's just super stoked on kiting. And I love that. Like, he's just so stoked. I think he's like 19 or 20, and he's just like, man, he's like I got this kite, and and he's just so stoked. And he's a really good photographer, really good filmer. In fact, I think what might happen is him and I might be teaming up for this next project. But we shall see. So, and then there's some more. There's a lot more stuff. I think there's some stuff where James and Patrick and I, we stole the Norwegian's rental car and drove it out to the middle of the lake, and I got that all documented. But that's just some fun stuff. So.
You have the bonus section, it sounds
yeah,
like.
no, totally. Like, I was like, I'm going to make this way bigger than it is, so.
Well, there's more questions coming out of the lounge now. It says, what's your favorite place to snow kite and why?
It's weird. It's like I could sit here right now, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to think, like, where do I want to go right now? Like, for me right now, just the beginning of the season, I'm like, sanitarium, just because there's kickers and all this stuff. I get super technical with this stuff. I don't want to go to a place like Skyline because it's so techy, or not techy, just so big. And you can get way in over your head over there. And that's another thing I want to talk about, Ryan, like, if we can, but like that, like, it's so crazy to go from this small, flatter stuff to, like, bigger terrain. You can really get in over your head. So for me right now, like, I love to get super technical on little stuff, jumps, kickers, like, rails, and then move all that stuff up to, like, backcountry. And actually, for me, like, in the end of the season, by March, I'm all Utah. Like, I love Utah. That place is ridiculous. I've never been in that much snow in my entire life. I think last year I was there, and it was like, I want to say I was there like around end of March. And I was like, okay, let's go out there. We went out there for like a week, and that was a lot of the Shasta footage that you'll see in the movie. But I went out there, and first day we showed up, like, it was kind of cloudy, kind of snowy, and then it like kind of broke up. And I was like, well, let's go check this out. Let's go do Skyline. And we went out, and it was literally like 4 feet deep. I was like, what is going on? Like, we all were on boards, and, like, some were on skis and stuff. I mean, we all came in. It was, like, 20 of us, and it was, like, way, way too deep. It was just stupid. And it was so deep that you couldn't even, I was taking, like, an 18-meter out in, like, 20 knots, just plowing through this deep stuff. I mean, it snows so much there. Huh. It's so crazy, and it's so unbelievable for wind and snow. I don't know, like, Colorado's fun, like, for stuff, and there's Utah for, like, backcountry stuff. So I kind of keep things separate. And then there's Montana, and there's Wyoming, there's places all over. So, but Utah for me is definitely, like, hit home, no doubt about it.
Now, like, you were talking about getting in over your head, like, what do you mean by that exactly?
Yeah, no, and I really want to, like, preach. I don't want to preach, but I want to tell people out there, like, it's just ridiculous. Like, when I was at Skyline last year, and I was filming, in fact, in the teaser, if you watch the teaser, you'll see all these kites up on Skyline, on Bosco Hill, I believe it is, and they're, like, going back and forth, and they're jumping off the top of that hill. And I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Like, some of these people have no idea what they're doing. They've been, like, they're coming straight off the water, they're just coming straight to Skyline, they're going to the top of that ridge, and just jumping. Like, little do they know, like, if one thing happens, like, where they start kind of going down, the wind goes straight up that hill. If they start coming down that hill with more speed, they're going right back up. and it's just this big, like, huge jump that goes from top to bottom. And if you don't know how to kite loop, forget it. Like, do not go to the top of that ridge. Like, I get so freaked out watching those people. And I remember listening to, like, Alex Peterson. I asked him, like, you know what? I asked him last year, because I'm still not good at this flying aspect. I'm freaked, you know, on it. And I asked him, like, Alex, you know, like, I want to start, you know, I want to fly like you. And
I want to
said,
fly
all right.
like you.
He's like, go to just a little bit, you know, go a little bit higher on the hill. Don't go to the top like all these guys are going. Just go a little bit higher and just try to fly. And he's so right. Like, I started flying a little bit at the end of the year, just going a little bit higher. You don't have to go. If you go to the top of the hill, you're asking for it. Like, you don't know. You could get into some serious trouble. And 2 years ago, it happened to me. I went to the top of the hill on the next ridge above Skyline, and I just kind of started flying. I was like, okay, this is great. And I had to kite loop to get down. So you have to, like, kind of realize what you're getting into, and it was cool to hear Alex say that. And it was just last year for me. Like, I'm still new to all this, and just seeing, like, 30 to, I don't even know, almost 100 kiters, actually, going back and forth on top of this hill. And I just couldn't believe it. You know, it was really, really odd to me to see that. And but at the same time, you know, I've been there too. Like, I did the same thing. You know, I've been doing that same thing. And then 2 years ago, I got lofted and just started flying around up way up high, and gravity takes you, and it's crazy. It's a weird feeling. It's not kiting anymore. It's a different sport. It really is.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is just be careful if any of you guys coming from water, they're going under the snow, just don't go to try to do a super huge Shasta jump off the top of the ridge.
Just start small. I mean, you can go a little ways up the mountain and get some really long jumps, and you know, it's high, you know, you can go pretty high. Like, just start small and work your way up, just like everything else.
Well, you know, we got a couple of questions coming from the lounge right now, the cherrytap.com lounge. We got the kiteboarder. We got a chat room, our own special chat room in there, and so there's a bunch of people hanging out in there. So here's the first question. It comes from Mr. Wiggles. It says, what's the most amount of wind you can ride in the snow compared to the water? You know, like a person in the water can ride like 30 miles per hour.
Sure.
You know, what's the max you can handle on snow?
About the same, really. There's really no difference, and you know what? I don't know. It's kind of a hard question to answer. What kind of kites you're riding, you know? It's like, are you on a boat kite? Or are you on a sea kite? Like, there's so many different kites now. It's hard to answer it perfectly. But you can pretty much ride the exact same amount of wind as, I mean, in general. I'm talking in general. You can pretty much kite the exact same amount of wind as water goes. As far as light wind goes, man, you can go in nothing. I mean, literally, you might not be able to feel anything, and put your kite up and go. And, you know, you get that apparent wind. It's unbelievable. Going, like, downwind or whatever, you can go in nothing. And that's, like, the beauty of it for me. And then, you know, there's really strong winds. And I, honestly, like, I don't touch it. I just don't touch anything over 25, believe it or not. And I was in wind yesterday over 25, and I, like, packed it in. I was like, I'm so out of here. And I can't rely on a wind that's too gusty up and down. So for me, I'd rather pick something around 15 to 20, and that's like perfect. And, you know, even if it's steep or flat, whatever, as long as it's 15, 20, even 8, let's say 7 or 8 to like 15 to 20, somewhere in there. But anything over that, like, you just, you know, you don't see the gusts on the snow as much, and you don't know what's coming. And I like to be more in touch with my kite and the weather. So for me, like, I would pick a high-pressure day, blue sky, nothing going on, and just a nice little breeze. That for me is the perfect type of conditions for kiting on snow.
Well, here's another question. It comes from a guy named Phantom. He wants to know if you've ever boarded on Mount Hood in Oregon.
Yeah, totally. I actually used to go up there and salt the pipes. I used to, my buddy Eitri worked up there for Wendell camps, and I'd go up there, you know, I'd come in after actually before windsurfing, I'd come up there, I'm like, hey, you know, I was like, can I ride your pipe? And he's like, Tree would look at me and he'd be like, hey, man, you know, Motz, you just can't come up here and, like, ride our pipe. You know, if you're going to ride this sucker, come on up and, you know, salt it, and then, you know, after you're done, salt it. So as far as snowboarding goes, yeah, I did a bunch, and that was fun. It was cool. far as kiting goes, no, I never did. And it probably has potential. I don't know. I've seen kind of the layout of it. There's a lot of rock outcroppings, which I was in yesterday, and I'm not down with that at all. I love just big open spots with snow. If you get in any kind of trouble, you let go, whatever, and there's nothing around. So, like in Utah, right?
Yeah, exactly, huh? Well, here's another question. It says a forum user saw your last DVD, The Next Chapter, and asked this question. Now that more and more backcountry spots are being uncovered, how is your view of the potential change since the filming of The Next Chapter?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Dude, it's not me, Paul. Like, that's why I turned this over to the people who listen to the podcast. The people, the questions they come up with blow my mind. I just kind of throw in the fillers.
Yeah, I hear you. No, that's an awesome question. And actually, for this DVD, I actually asked those guys in Montana, I'm like, listen, I'm going to do this locations thing in the bonus section. Are you guys cool with me putting this in here? And they're like, they were fine. But, I mean, it's definitely a fine line. Like, if they said no, I'd be like, yeah, and I totally agree, But it's so open, so I have no problem with it right now. Like, I really have no problem as far as people going out there and seeing the DVD, and then they can see those locations and where to go, and that's fine. Because, you know what? I've seen so many more spots. I've seen hundreds of spots out there that are, like, the same or better. So I'm okay with it right now. I just want to make sure that the locals in that area are cool with it. So for me, that's kind of where I stand.
Dude, I have some insane questions for you right now.
Sure.
There's like 5 questions here that are just right on the money, like things that actually I really would like to know. So I'll just start firing them off. When is a somewhat experienced snowkiter ready for backcountry exploration? What tools do they need to do this safely, and what are the general do's and don'ts?
All right.
Yeah, that's a 3-parter.
Okay, so if you're moving on from the flats and you're getting into the backcountry, most likely what you want to do is look into a place that's kind of roly-poly, like, I don't know, I'm thinking of a place, like, think of like the Midwest where it kind of just rolls and just kind of goes, so you can't get in any trouble. So you'll know, though, like, I mean, when you jump off of those hills, you'll start to feel the elevation. So just to get to that, that's what you want to do. You want to go from the flats and just go back and forth, and you want to get, I mean, I would suggest, like, you got to get the lessons and all that stuff for sure. Like, get lessons, and, if you're on a four-wheeler or inflatable, I don't care what you are, go flats, do flats, and that's it, and then go to your roly-poly, like, hills, and then, you start feeling comfortable there, then go to, a little bit of a steeper stuff, but don't, like, go over your head, man. I mean, it's too easy. Like, I've been there, like, so many times. I've seen so many people get into it. It is too easy to get in, like, way over your head. So you just kind of want to, like, you got to go, like, it's, like, really, like, sidestepping, like, the whole way up. It's not just, I don't know. I mean, it's probably the same thing with kiting with waves. Like, I don't kite that much in waves, but, man, I don't like, it's like touching, like, it's like going from, like, I don't know, like the West Coast to Chopu. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know I hope that helps for some people.
No, that's a good analogy right there.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It goes from, like, literally, like, nothing to, like, huge. And you, like, and there's not much, and there's some stuff in between, but you can't just jump from one thing to another. So that's kind of what I suggest, and fly, like, go kiting as much as you can. Like, don't just, go for one weekend, get lessons, and just think you can just, get to it. Even if you're a good snowboarder or skier, it doesn't matter. Like, you still need to learn, like, a huge thing like weather. Like, weather is so important. I come from, more of a, like, not more of it, but from a windsurf background, like, weather and wind and everything. Like, I've learned so much from that, and I take it to kiting, and I still see so many people, I'm like, oh, my God, they are not going out on that size kite. And I'll run up to them like, no, you guys, it's too big, or too small, or whatever. Like, so weather is a huge factor with kiting.
Well, here's another good question. We talked about, like, what tools do you need, but do you think avalanche training is essential to take before you're attempting any backcountry exploration?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I kind of missed that one. Yeah, absolutely. Like, transceivers, wear it. Even if it looks, like it's totally kosher. Like yesterday I wore one and there was no one with me. But I know if I ever got in trouble, which actually, let me back up. Don't go kiting by yourself like I did yesterday.
Do as I say, not as I do, right?
Yeah, totally. I just was hungry for a session, and I went for it. And I know that where I went, it's a windblown spot where it doesn't get much, but you never know. That's the thing. I've been in a few slides snowboarding where I never expected. I was like, what is going on? No way is this sliding right now, and I'm in it, bumping down some hill. Like, great, this is real good. Luckily, nothing's ever happened to me, but get a transceiver. I know it's like $200 or $250. You know what? There's people out there, there's retailers and all that. They'll sell it to you at cost because they want to make sure you're alive. Like, they don't care if they're making money on that. Like, buy a transceiver, get a digital one. I think that's the big one. I think Tracker is one of the best ones. Ortovox X1s are good. Those two are like pretty well known. Probes, all that stuff is, are you kidding? Like, it's all good stuff for sure. And, I don't know. We kite in some spots where we don't wear all that stuff, and we should be at all times, especially a transceiver. At least a transceiver and, knowing that, we got that on. Because it could happen anywhere. If, like right now, I know up in Colorado, we just got a big dump. It's been snowing like crazy here. In fact, this is the best preseason winter we've had. It's been years. It hasn't been like this forever. And we've got, a couple feet up there. And where I kited, it was so windblown and so hard packed that I know that next dump is going to create this layer. It's going to slide like crazy on top of that. If someone goes kiting or snowboarding that next day on that, it'll slide. And there's no doubt in my mind. There's just this nice layer that's been just, the wind's been blowing across that layer, so it makes this smooth layer. And then the next dump is this powder, and it just slides on it. And it creates these blocks that just go. So yeah, and that's the thing is you don't know what it's doing. If you're driving an hour away or an hour and a half away, you don't know what it's doing up there. It's changing by the hour.
Or if you're Ryan Riccitelli, the guy who's from California and lives on the beach, or now I live in Texas. You know what I mean? You just taught me something. I don't know anything about snow, and that's very logical. And here, I know there's so many kiters like myself who are just like, yeah, we're gonna charge, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna make it happen. I don't need lessons, I don't need anything. Just give me a kite, and then they get themselves into hot water. And
sure. Yeah, you go out in the lake or flats. You don't need to get a transceiver. I'm just saying, you get into that backcountry stuff. That's like a whole other ball game. And even if it's roly-poly, I don't know, man. Just throw it on. What the hell? It's a small device. You just throw it on, and it's not that hard to do.
Well, let's move on. We're running out of time here, but there's a question. Munz, your buddy Munz hooked us up with some good questions. He's a cool dude. He says, any other big news from you besides the release of 2010?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually engaged to Munz's sister.
Oh,
I know, I look like a dog now, don't I?
You're just hooking up with your best friend's sister, huh?
Yeah, no, so we've been dating for like 3 years, and Munz and all of us were like super good friends, and it's a really cool deal. And I went down to Mexico actually like a couple weeks ago and proposed to Jen. And she said yes, and yeah, we're getting married now. Yeah, it's crazy.
So wait a minute, let's step back here. How did Munz take it when you got? I know you guys have been friends for a while, but when you're like, "Hey, bro, I'm dating your sister."
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? It's actually really good, and I think we just leave it at that because it's pretty good. And that's personal life kind of stuff. And
oh, I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know, totally.
Oh, hey, Paul. There's another question here. Obviously, let's get back to the. And this is a question straight from Munz. He says, what terrain is viewed as extreme? When is it okay to ride? And what should definitely be avoided?
Yeah, extreme is like, I don't know why he used the word extreme, because he knows I hate that.
That's probably why
That's probably why he posted that. But, it's, I don't know, it's definitely up to the person, as far as, there's a lot of guys, think about Chasta, what's his, I don't know what his, last resort is. Is he going to be, up on top of this gigantic cliff, and to him, that's nothing. So everyone has their own personal taste and experience as far as where they are as far as snowboarding, skiing / kiting goes. And that's a good thing to know. Like, you gotta be experienced in both. It's not just kiting. Like, just because you can fly the kite and you're good at it, you still have to know your board skills or your ski skills to take that to the next level. So, I don't know. And you know what? We're still pushing it. We don't know. We have no idea. And Chasta's like, he's right up there pushing it.
Chasta's level is at a. He's just. I've gotten these photos recently from a couple of the French photographers that I've known just for years, and they just send me like shots of this guy just doing like. I mean, not even. It's like beyond. It's like 100-foot airs. Like.
Yeah.
It's in going like gapping valleys. It's almost just mind blowing to see the level that he's pushing at, and then you meet the guy, and I know you know him personally, and he's just such a mellow dude.
Yeah, no, totally, and what's cool about Chasta is that I can sit there and film him and just do a technical like a little like I'm talking like a 2-foot jump, and film him for like a half day or a day or whatever on that one little jump. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I get blown away when I like film him like doing these gaps. Like in 2010, you'll see this gap that he's doing through the trees at Skyline, and you're just like, oh man, you like pull this off, dude. Like I'm like looking through the lens, like, come on, man, you gotta pull this off, or it's not gonna work. Like it's scary.
It's like, ouch.
but then when you see it, and that's what progression is. That's totally what it is. Like you see it and you're like, all right, okay, so it's been done. Like, okay, so that's like a level that you can do, and that's what it's weird. Like we are on the forefront of this sport, and to see that, and to be that, and to be behind the lens, like, okay, oh man, all right, and Chester doesn't even tell me that. Like, it's so like sometimes he drives me crazy, man. I'm filming him, and I'm like, so what are you gonna do? And he's like, he says something to me, sometimes in French, I don't even know, and then he like jumps off, and I'm like, okay, this is what he's doing, and I'm filming it, so. It's really like, it's tough, to see that, but at the same time, like, I love this progression. It's huge, and like Chasta's completely like blown out of proportion as far as backcountry goes, and technical ability as the little techie stuff goes. He's totally blown it out of the water, So.
The other dude who we got to give props to is Alex Peterson, because he's a skier who just is on steroid jumps that just go monster hundreds of feet. He's a nut job too.
Absolutely. In fact, I don't film skiers too much, but I love filming Alex. He's like one of the guys that I can definitely. He's definitely one of my buddies for sure as far as kiting goes and filming.
And I think he just happens to be like one of the nicest guys you've ever met. It's just
he's crazy.
It's like, are you on happy pills?
Yeah, he's so cool, and he's crazy, and he just like he'll look at something, and you're like, oh yeah, right, whatever, like get out of here, and then all of a sudden you see him in like 5 minutes and he's doing it, so yeah, it's cool.
Actually, you were with me. We were in we were in Minnesota. Sorry, we were on Minnetonka, and him and his brother were doing toe-ups with the paraglider that day over a nice frozen icy lake. One wrong move, splat. These guys are just nuts. But
oh yeah, totally. Like, and and they have a big flying background. So, like, you'll see them do their flying stuff, and that's another direction the sport's going. There's so many directions. So, like, you'll see this flying aspect of it, and Alex is definitely one of those guys that can just fly off of anything and just fly, and he loves it. I mean, he'll just, and you'll see, like, in some of I have a little bit of footage of Alex where, you see, like, Alex and Chasta going off on exactly at the same time, and they're both, you can see what they're doing. They're going back and forth with the kite, going off the hill, so they can keep gliding. Like, they're trying to glide, Where me, man, I'm like, no way. I'll just cruise back and forth and hit this powder.
You just want to do a really stylish backside 3.
Yeah, and for me, that, like, is huge. Like, I've honestly, like, for me, I finally, like, I think I've perfected the 3 and a little bit of the 7s, but I can do, like, a backside 3, like, no matter how high or how far or how small, whatever, I know where I'm at all times, and it's one smooth rotation. It's not like at the very last second I spin it. Like, it's just this one big smooth rotation where it looks like, to the public's eye, it looks really easy. And that's where I think the sport, people need to see that. Like, oh yeah, it looks easy. And I think that's part of it. Like, when you watch Shaun White go down a run, like in a park for his Olympic run in the half pipe, whatever, it looks easy. And that's part of it. Like, he's in so much control, So for me, that's where kiting is, as far as snow goes. So, there's a lot of approaches to kiting on snow. I mean, there's so much to it.
Well, dude, we got to wrap her up, so I want to give you a chance to throw some shouts out to everyone and give us some contact information.
Sure. Thanks, Motz, for putting me on the spot. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you to Munz's sister for keeping you alive.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Thanks, Motz. Thank you, Ryan, for putting me out here and kind of telling people what's going on and the release for 2010. I'm super stoked on this movie, and I think people will be too. Yeah, I mean, thanks everyone for sure. Like, you know, thanks to the kind for supporting me since I was like a little grom till now. Like, everybody, like it's been a good time. Everyone out there that I haven't thanked, you guys know who you are, and I'm super stoked on everything. So it's been fun, and I'm stoked for another winter. Just pray for snow and some good wind.
Well, keep sending us, information on what you're doing, and I know we stay in pretty decent touch, and we'll drop us, your press releases for your DVD release, and we'll get them up on the kiteboarder.com and just try and help you out as much as we can, man. And
right on.
Isn't it kitesnowboarder.com?
Yeah, kitesnowboarder.com. Yep.
Yeah, that's
or
been
snowkiter.com. Get to the same place.
Yeah, that's a site that's been up for ages, man. That site has been the site for there's a lot of good information on there. Kitesnowboarder.com and all the crew that the original crew, Munz and James and you, and it's cool to watch the sport evolve as it has, and I look forward to seeing what happens this year, because hopefully we can grow more than we grew last year, and that's all that we can hope for, I guess.
Oh, we always do, especially in the snow kiting world, so it's pretty fun. Yeah.
Well, real quickly, I just want to thank everyone in the lounge for tuning in to the show. That's cherrytap.com, formerly Lost Cherry. Yep, that's right. We changed the name. It's now at cherrytap.com. We broadcast or webcast this podcast through the lounge, and we allow our listeners to ask questions, and so we've had some great questions from you all tonight, and I just want to thank each and every one of you and everyone out there for supporting the show. We got the Kiteboarder magazine is actually, it's just making its way out in the shops. You can check out the cover on the kiteboarder.com. So I'll leave with that, dude, and stay in touch with me, Paul. And this show will go up tomorrow morning, so it'll be available on iTunes, and the rest of the world will be listening to it during their commute to work.
Cool, right on. See you guys.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, no, yeah. I know, yeah.